Exciting news today for Shatterpoint fans. So Moff Gideon has had his stats revealed, and if you ask me, I think they're very, very good. Maybe not S tier, but not far below it. A, maybe B. Now we're going to go through all his stats in a minute. We'll talk about the synergies he has, we'll talk about his abilities and that kind of thing, and then we'll look at his trees for both stances. Before we get into that, the little bits to note really are that he is available for both eras. So if you don't mix and match your various eras, he is available to play in the Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War. And he's an 8 SP model, and he has 3 Force tokens. Now, in terms of the tags that Moff Gideon has, he has Galactic Empire, which is somewhat useful, and Scoundrel, which currently isn't useful at all. So the Scoundrel tag is now, it's owned by a number of units. So the Cad Bane squad pack that came out, they all had Scoundrel tags, and obviously this guy has it, as did, I believe, Boba Fett had it, Jango Fett has it. Now, it is a tag within the game, but it doesn't have any buffs, or there is no reference to it in any other abilities within the game whatsoever. So currently it's a tag in name only, but it is of no use in the game until we get some units that maybe has that tag appear in their abilities. Interestingly enough, I was very surprised that Moff Gideon had the Scoundrel tag. I can't imagine why it would be, but there you go, it's in the game. Now his other tag, the Galactic Empire, that is somewhat more useful. So that is currently owned by whatever is in this expansion, plus the Inquisitors, both types of Vaders, and the Stormtroopers. So anything that is in the Inquisitorious realm, plus Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers and the Stormtroopers Sergeant, they all have that Galactic Empire tag. Now, in terms of buffs and that kind of thing, there are some that Moff can give to other units that have the Galactic Empire tag, but it doesn't go both ways for the most part. So for example, the Vader that came in the dual pack, and as well as all the Inquisitors, in fact, so the Vader from the dual pack that had the Inquisitorious tag. Now anything with the Inquisitorious tag, none of those have positive buffs that they can offer other Galactic Empire units. However, there are some that do now. So the most recent Darth Vader pack, Fear and Dead Men, both the Stormtrooper Sergeant and Vader himself does have some. They do utilize that Galactic Empire tag in there. So there are positive uses in those expansions for this tag that Grand Moff has got. Sorry, that Moff Gideon has got. But yeah, in terms of Inquisitors and that kind of thing, Gideon can buff them, but it doesn't go back the other way. Now, if you want to hear more about tags and that kind of thing, you can either go and watch my review of the Fear and Dead Men squad pack, where I talk a lot more about the Galactic Empire tag and the various synergies that go on there. Or if you can hang on for about a week or so, I've got a very in-depth video basically going through every single tag in the game and what units synergize and how with that tag. I'm going to start going through tier lists and all that kind of stuff in a few weeks' time. But in the meantime, I want to start focus and doing a lot of work in that area to prepare for those sort of conversations coming up. So if you're interested in seeing that, don't forget to subscribe and ding that little bell so as you'll know when more content goes live. Now let's have a little bit of a look through his abilities. So we'll start with Smug Determination. So this is right at the beginning of his turn. Choose an allied Galactic Empire character within 4. Each character in this unit may dash. So that's pretty common. We've seen it before. The next one is less common, and I really had to read this a few times to actually understand what it meant. Long live the Empire. Choose an active objective and an allied Galactic Empire supporting unit. One character in the chosen unit may reposition towards that objective, then the chosen unit suffers 2 damage. Okay, so do a reposition and suffer 2 damage. Now the next piece really needs to be reread a few times, at least it did for me. If this effect wounds the chosen unit, that unit may remove 1 wounded token. All damage and one condition from itself. If it does, that unit gains an injured token. Now, first time I read that, I actually thought it meant, wow, it means that they don't actually have to become wounded because you've removed the token. It doesn't mean that at all. What it does is it recycles the wound and then injured token. It does it very quickly, so it basically it makes that effect immediately. So it's not actually a benefit. It actually causes you to really need to think about this ability before you do it, because you could potentially just wound one of your units. It will give you the objective at that moment, at that specific moment. It can win the objective for you, but ultimately, if that causes the unit to become wounded, and then it does the cycle back to injured token and that kind of thing. You need to decide if that's a good thing or not. It usually wouldn't be, but if you do it right at the end of the game, it could make all the difference. I hope that makes sense. I might have actually confused myself a little bit more with that one, but yeah, it's a sound premise if you use it at the right time. Okay, next one. Assume that I know everything. When an opposing player would spend 1 force token to place a unit's order card in reserve, they must spend 1 additional force token. So effectively just cost them double to put something into reserve. And then finally, you have something that I want. This is a kind of two-parter. When an allied Galactic Empire character performs a melee attack as part of a combat action, if a defender is contesting an active objective that you don't control, add 1 dice to the attack roll. Okay, so if you're within range of an objective and you don't own it, and someone else is contesting it there, add 1 dice to your roll. Now this is the important thing. Additionally, when determining control of an active objective that a character in this unit is contesting, if there's a tie, the unit's controlling player takes control of the objective. So basically, this guy gets priority on all ties for objectives. So that's massive. Very, very big indeed. There is another Inquisitorious unit that does that. I think it is the 5th brother, and they call it Inquisitorial Mandate. But yeah, so that's a big ability. Very, very important. Okay, so now we look at the combat. So pretty good, really. All things considered, he's not the best in combat, but then again, there's a lot worse. So if we look at the top stance first, if we consider that this is the one that leads with the melee, so with that dark saber, this is the burn them out side of the card, and we can see that those dark saber, if you look at the expertise chart down there, is actually, if you get 3+, you get a crit and 2 auto wounds. So very, very cool indeed. Obviously that's better if you get 4 and not much worse if you get 2. But in terms of, if you count across that tree, you can see that a maximum damage you're going to get is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So a lot of damage going there. But having said that, to achieve that, you need to get, to achieve all 9 damage, you need to get 6 successes across 6 or 7 dice. Plus the other one from that last ability that we spoke about, if it's available. But certainly, yeah, 6 successes from 7 dice. And bearing in mind that your opponent is, they're obviously going to roll their saves as well. So a lot of wounds there potentially, but not a great deal of hope to kind of get up to those levels. But having said that, the dark saber there is very, very good. 4 expertise, it's possible, but with that you get 2 crits and 2 auto wounds. So very, very cool. Moff Gideon's blaster, less effective, but still not bad. So on just 1 or 2 expertise, you get 2 hits. 3 or more, you get a crit and a hit. And then if we take a look at the battle armor aspect, it's not bad. It's not great either. So he rolls 5 or 6 dice, regardless of which stance he's got. It's just different for melee or ranged combat. Stats themselves are okay. So for example, on 4 expertise, he actually heals 1, turns a crit into a fail, and does 2 normal saves, and then Obviously that drops down and down as it goes. Now, interestingly enough, the Dark Saber and battle armor for both stances are identical. In terms of range combat and his blaster pistol, on Burn Them Out, he rolls 6 on the blaster, 7 on melee, and then those are flipped for the self-interest stance. The only real difference between the two are A, the combat trees, and B, Moff Gideon's blaster pistol itself. And it's a bit of a toss-up between the two, really. So on the Burn Them Out tree, you deal a greater amount of damage, and on the self-interest tree, you get a different range of different things that you're able to do. So, for example, you can trigger off force actions and that kind of thing fairly early on. So you just need 3 successes for that. But ultimately, the expertise in combat is better on the self-interest side than it is on the Burn Them Out. But the Burn Them Out is the one that does the more damage. So a bit of a toss-up, but both are pretty good. So like I said, on the Burn Them Out, maximum of 9 damage, and on the self-interest, it is a maximum of 7, I believe. But then there are some healing options and that kind of thing there as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a toss-up, but both sides very, very good. So to sum up, I mean, without having him on the table yet, I'm kind of going for an A/B tier for this. Not as strong enough for S tier, but certainly very, very good. Not so much for his combat, but more for his objective control options and that kind of thing. So I'm liking him. I think it looks very good. I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing the units in his box. So that is a Death Trooper and 2 Dark Troopers. Very much looking forward to seeing that. And I think potentially this could be a great box going forward. Again, he's utilising that sort of relatively underused tag of Galactic Empire. That is going to grow and improve as we go over time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how things develop with that as well. But certainly for me, first impressions are Moff Gideon is very, very good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be covering the other units as and when they get their stats revealed and that kind of thing. And I hope you join me for it. So I'll catch you later. Ta-da!